Check. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Rescue Owners Live. This is Season 2, Episode 10. My name is Kirk Mote, and you are on with the one and only Beth Mote. I mean, I just love saying that every single time. Hey, listen, whether you have, are joining us for the very first time or you have been here for all 40 episodes, that right? This is episode number 40 since we've been starting, if that's even correct, Amber. I don't think it is. We love to highlight our viewers. All right. So in the chat, let us know your name, your company's name, and where you are tuning in from in this world. So we are coming to you live from Atlanta, Georgia, home of the Georgia State Panthers. I went to Georgia State, in case you're wondering. The men's basketball team made it to the big dance. They're going to the tournament. Basketball. I mean, the only reason I know about this is because I went to Georgia State. But I figured I ought to let you know about this tonight. For those who are joining us, I want to know exactly where you're calling in from. So go ahead and throw in the chats. Let us know where you're tuning in from tonight so that we can highlight you, highlight your business, and highlight your city. I mean, we love to just, let people know who all is tuning in. I know we have people all over the world by this point. I mean, we got people literally not Russia anymore. I mean, they're gone. what is it called? What's it called when you
be Switzerland? You mean?
No. What's it called when you what's all the millennials doing when they hate something?
Oh,
cancel
culture.
We canceled Russia. That's right. No viewers are allowed from Russia. I'm not even sure if we're allowed to say this. Now our show's going to get hacked. Oh man. Hey, listen, we got a very special guest coming to us later tonight. You don't want to miss it. It's Holly Jackson. Holly Jackson is a world-famous holistic business coach to health and wellness business owner, entrepreneurs, speakers, influencers, and leaders. She is a founder of Holly Jean Jackson LLC, co-founder of the Business Builder Network, and live stream show and host of the Inspiration Contagion podcast. You don't want to miss. She'll be on later tonight in the show. But until then, we are going to be spitting some knowledge. I'm spitting tonight. I'm not sure if you can see it or not, but I'm just so excited about, content tonight, the special guest tonight. So make sure that you tune in for this show, because I'm telling you, this is going to be wild. We got an incredible special guest tonight. So make sure you're on. So let's talk about some knowledge. All right. Let's, one of the biggest things that hold people up is objections.
Yeah.
People, how many have heard of, just looking? I mean, what's an objection you've heard?
Probably one of the top.
Yeah, you're in a retail store, you're cruising around for the jacket or the pants, the shoes, the car. I mean, just looking. I mean, how many people have heard that? I would love to hear your number one objection. Throw that in the chat. That would be incredible for I mean, let's run a poll. Let's just see. What is the top objection? Just looking. Price is too high. Have you ever had a price objection? I know I have.
It's probably the other main one of just not interested, or I don't want to pay that much, whatever it is.
I'm not buying. Hey, that's another objection I've heard. I'm not buying today. That's great. Hey, I know. I get it.
Window shopping.
Right. We're just shopping. That was the next one I was going to mention. Just shopping.
Well, it's just like you walk into, I feel like Target's the main one people talk about. But you go in for one item, or you go to the grocery store and you're like, I just need eggs, and you walk out with $200 worth of groceries. Or Costco. Costco's a big one. Costco and Sam's. I'm just going in for this, and then suddenly you're like, oh, I've just spent $1,000 on meat and candy.
It's okay, what do we do, right? So I'm trying to think. What are some other objections? I'm not the decision maker.
Yeah.
I know I've used that as an excuse. I got to talk to my wife.
As I say, they won't say I'm not the decision maker. They'll just say, well, I really need to see such and such's opinion on this, or I need to talk to my wife about it, or whatever the case may be.
We have a better price from XYZ company.
Yeah.
Yeah. But guess what? You don't get me. With XYZ
or maybe they can deliver, but they can deliver cheaper in 2 years or 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
And it's well, do you want to pay $200 less, or do you want to get it now? because maybe that's something you still need, and maybe you're having to pay to rent something or pay to borrow someone's, because you're still paying in some way, even if you're borrowing something for free. There's an exchange of value in some way that you're going to owe that person back to something in the future. So you got to take all that stuff into consideration too.
100%. Let's see. I don't have time. Ooh.
That's a hard one. It's a very hard one.
Okay, that's cool. First of all, they wouldn't be there in front of you talking to you if they didn't have time. They made enough time to be there. So guess what?
Or it could be a phone call.
It could be a phone call. Like,
so it'd be a little different. So you gotta be.
But guess what? They picked up the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you gotta be flexible in the sense of like either that's, hey, give me 2 minutes. Can you give me 20 seconds? Or hey, if it's a longer pitch, you truly need more time, whatever the case may be. Hey, when would you have 10 minutes for me to call you back? Yeah, or be in front of a computer.
Yeah. Just send me a proposal. How many have heard that? I mean, dude, just send it to me. That's the easy way of being polite and saying, look,
and then they never get back to you.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's not their responsibility to get back to us.
Yeah.
It's our responsibility to get back with them.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying those people are usually the ones that are like, send me a proposal and then I'll get back to you when I'm interested.
Yeah. Your terms are not good. Hate your terms. I have bad credit. Ooh.
Yeah.
There's like, if you're doing financing for what the services that you're offering and someone's like, oh, I have bad credit. Hey, no problem. Good credit, bad credit. We got you covered. Right?
I've seen that a lot with real estate agents of doing like videos or ads or posts of like, oh, you think that you don't have good enough credit to get a house? Well, you just need to contact me and we'll figure it out, kind of thing. So that's been a big industry where I've seen the credit objection really attacked recently.
Oh, I might have perfect credit. That might be another objection. I don't need terms. I can pay with their cash, right?
Well,
okay, great. Right here, let's roll. We can't do anything until XYZ. I mean, there's all like these are all like complaints, excuses, right? Objections. I mean, we like to handle objections as complaints, not really objections, because a lot of times these responses right here are reactionary. Okay, just look at. I mean, that's just like the first thing that people say when it's like, hey, I don't want to talk to sales rep right now. I don't want to feel pressured. So your product doesn't have blah. I mean, there's another objection. We don't sign contracts. Has anyone heard that before? It's out there, few and far between. But
I've heard people like weird about contracts, maybe not just signing them at all, but like they want you to change all this stuff. And I have a list of edits.
Yeah, it's like, man, you're the only person I've ever had request an edit on this standard document. It's like, if you are just now joining us, we are talking about objections and some of the common objections that you might be hearing from your clients. We can't afford this. Already over budget. Send me testimonials. I literally got that yesterday. Yeah. Hey, I need some referrals. Send them my way. And you know what I did? I said, you got it. And so I did a group chat with them, myself, and the person that is going to be doing the referral. And guess what? In doing so, I was actually able to, first of all, the reviews and referrals blew me away.
They were stellar.
Absolutely incredible. Look, you never want to do a low cost job. You never want to be the low cost value person, right? Because you can't provide the proper value and you can't provide proper quality.
And even if you do at the beginning, eventually you're going to start being like, well, I only got paid X number of dollars for this. If I work another hour to get the job done properly, I'm going to be losing money. And then eventually at some point, your quality is going to suffer.
So you need to make sure that if you are trying to be the lowest bid, cut it out. Don't even I would not even go down that road, to be honest.
I would say the only way that you can make that work is for example, in a Walmart kind of setup where it's like a product that you're selling versus service. I really would stray away from that. But if it's a product, it's a little different because at a certain point, the customer knows when your product is $5 and everybody else is $30, that they're not getting the same quality product. And so as long as you have your margins built in for, your true costs, then, maybe that's fine. But optimally, it's always better to be more middle or high end of the road.
So sending me testimonials. We just said that. I have to think about it. I love this one. I get it all the time. I mean, like literally, like 3 times last week, I got to think about it. I'm like, hey, what additional information do you need from me in order to make sense of the value proposition? That's literally my response every single time someone says I got to think about it, because now I get to hear the real objection. Because again, that little phrase right there, I got to think about it. That's a reactionary response.
Or there's something else that they have a question about, but they haven't asked it for some reason.
Or I haven't done a good job asking enough quality questions to pull out what the real objection is.
Yeah.
And that's one great question I use whenever I hear this objection. I have to think about it.
Or you haven't added enough value. Like either you're truly not giving enough value in your sale in and of itself, or you haven't made clear all the value that is going to be added. Because, for example, say you're putting down turf. We've had a lot of that. You need to really clearly explain that value add of what they're getting from that, of like, oh, you're not going to have to water this. You're not going to have to mow this. You're not going to have to. You really need to paint that picture of exactly what your product does for them. Whereas they might truly, for you, that's your product. You know it inside and out. You close your eyes and tell everything backwards. Your client doesn't know that. So things that might seem super obvious to you, of like, well, of course it doesn't need to be mowed. Maybe they haven't thought about that. Like, that's just not, their brain hasn't gotten that far yet. It's like, oh, it's just so expensive or it's going to take so long.
Yeah. So the dominant buying motive, the DBM is what it's called. Dominant buying motive. If you're taking notes tonight, write that down. You want to find your clients, I say they're not clients yet, your prospects dominant buying motive, because that's the whole purpose of your fact-finding questions, right? So when you ask quality questions, the quality of your questions determine the quality of your results. I mean, when you ask quality questions, you are going to get quality results. Okay. So what I mean by that, when you ask a stupid question, hey, how's it going? How was your day? Like, okay, that's I would classify as a waste of time, because you're bringing in other factors to the conversation.
Well, and it
could derail your whole conversation.
It doesn't actually build the relationship. Yeah. It's a question that people get, hey, how are you? I'm fine. They're not really answering that question anyway. So you're not building the relationship. It's not furthering the conversation you're having with them. There's outside variables. Maybe they had a horrible day. And it's no beneficial information for either of you. Whereas if you're asking specifically about the product and specifically about things that are going to help you figure out the best product for them, then you're both benefiting. Because say they brought you in to put new flooring down for them. Like, sure, let's be nice and let's be cordial. But at the end of the day, they really just want you to figure out what floors they want. And, you got some clients that want to talk. But at the end of the day, they're really wanting you to walk away so that you didn't have a 50-minute conversation with them and still didn't get all the information you needed about the floors.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one, and we'll finish up with the list of objections with this one. We never make a rash decision.
Oh.
How have you heard that one before? We never make a rash decision. Sir, but the fact that you're in my store looking at my product tells me that you've been thinking about this for quite some time. At this point in time, it is not a rash decision.
No.
You're going to do this eventually. Let's go ahead and make it official.
Because honestly, especially in today's day and age, if you're in a store,
100%.
You've probably spent hours looking at different things on the computer, researching it, looking at all the options. You probably know just as much as that salesperson does about that product at that point.
Yeah.
And also, even just people getting quotes. Yeah, occasionally you're the first quote, but a lot of times they've gotten so many quotes before. I can't tell you, being in like the service industry with like indoor and outdoor renovations, whether it be in your yard or your home, so many people just sort of shop around for quotes and don't necessarily even have any intention of doing anything with it. So by the time that people are seriously walking into your business or calling you up, usually they've done plenty of research that, that's really not a concern at that point.
Yeah, I would agree. So again, if you're taking notes tonight, and even if you're not, go ahead and do me a huge favor and hit that share button, because I guarantee someone in your network needs to hear what we're talking about tonight.
Maybe your neighborhood.
Maybe your neighborhood. Yeah, you caught that. Steps to mastering objections. Step number 1 is commit. You got to be committed to handling objections as complaints. All right. Because if you're not committed, then you're going to hit no, not interested. And you could be like, oh, so sorry for bothering you. Have a great day. And click when you're on the phone in front of them, whatever, because you just don't like that, the friction or the, being uncomfortable. But if you know how to handle an objection, in quotes, as a complaint, you're able to get to the root cause and go straight to your first fact-finding question. Number 2 is you want to take full responsibility for everything. Okay. I mean, you get a price objection, right? Let's say you're selling sales training. Okay. I say, hey, Beth, how many people do you have on your sales team? And she answers. And then I'm like, well, what kind of sales training are you doing? And you're like, I'm not doing any sales training. Really? Why is that? And then you start getting all these, crazy responses. And then you're like, hey, we have an option where we can come in and do sales training every single day on a virtual platform it starts at this price, and we have pricing range for that. Oh, that's way too much, right? And there's going to be a pricing objection. And when you hit that pricing objection, you take full responsibility. And here's how it works. Hey, I get it. It is a lot of money, but I take full responsibility that you don't have that kind of money to put down right now. Whoa. People are like, are you kidding me? No, it's not your fault. It's my fault. No. It's my fault, because if you had known about me and my sales training 90 days ago, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And now they're like, whoa, is your sales training that good?
Well, and then you're also putting the thought in their mind where they're like, oh, so in 90 days, I could be at this point versus where I am.
Number 3, steps to mastering objection. Number 3 is define the real objection. Okay. I mean, and that might, you basically have to ask why, or, tell me more, or, explain what
usually
you mean
it's
by.
Just getting them to talk.
Yeah.
And clarifying.
Yep.
So good way, like if someone says something and you're not entirely sure if they've, if you're understanding exactly what they mean, it can be really good to be like, hey, just so make sure I'm understanding you, and we're on the same page. When you said this, did you mean this? Like, can I rephrase this back to you? And just like rephrasing what they've said back in a slightly different manner to the way you understood it, then either they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's what I was saying. Exactly. Perfect. And now you're getting them to agree with you, which is even better. Or they're going to be like, oh no, I actually meant this. And that way you've clarified what you understood. Now you're truly tracking together, and you're not going to end up trying to sell them the wrong product that they really don't need because you misunderstood what they said.
Yeah. And like, let's say you're selling a high ticket item. Hey, is there any reason why I couldn't get you to buy a executive vice president VIP exclusive blah blah blah, right? And then like, no, just send me a proposal.
Yeah.
Excellent. You'd like me to go and lock you in right now, because the pricing is, and then like boom, it's like, oh, it's only $10,000. Okay, cool, let's rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
Or again, now you're getting to like the people who really start throwing out some objections, and you lock them in on that one objection, right? Hey, so as long as I got to check my calendar. Oh, I got to talk to my wife or whatever. It's like, hey, if your wife says yes and your calendar is open, can I count on you? Because now you're getting their commitments to secure that sell.
Yeah.
And whether they buy from you or not, that commitment right there will probably haunt them for the rest of their life if they don't actually buy from you, because that's their word. And if they break their word, guess what? They know it.
Well, and it also puts you in a position of being able to sort of find out if there's any other objections. Because if they say, oh, well, the only reason I wouldn't buy is if I need to talk to my wife. Okay, awesome. Well, if your wife says yes, are we good to go?
When your wife says yes.
When your wife says yes, are we good to go? And then they go, well, I also actually need to make sure that I can get financing or whatever the other objection actually is. Okay, great. Well, if we can do X, Y, and Z.
When. We're trying to take
when we can do X, Y, and Z, will that, equal a sale basically? And then you just sort of keep going until there's a yes. Yep. If when all these things work out, then we'll do it. Then most likely that you have all
true
the
objection
objections.
is X, not all
Right.
these other complaints that he was throwing.
But you got to keep going, because even once they've told you what their objection is, there can still be hidden objections. And so that's why it's so important to like keep rephrasing back, hey, so when all this works out, we're good, right? And getting that confirmation, because if it feels like they're still hesitating, there's usually other things you still need to address in some fashion.
Right. Number 4 is identify location. What do I mean by location? We're talking about the sales process. And if you do not have a sales process, you need to have a sales process. Whether it's mine, whether it's someone else's, for heaven's sakes, I don't care. Just get one,
As long as
because
it works.
well, I mean, it's the bottom line is business owners, 31.5 million small to mid-sized business owners, 2/3 of those are failing cyclically every 5 years, 60 months. They're out of business. And the majority, like that number is almost identical to, I think it's 25 million that are single owner businesses.
Yeah.
And that single owner business is that person who is on like the hamster wheel of death. I know Beth hates when I say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. The hamster wheel of death. And what I mean by that is they're working in the business, never on the business. And so they never replicated the process of how to duplicate the success that they've had in someone else. And if they never duplicate, or like write down that process such that someone else could follow that exact same methodology, hey, you might have your own sales process. That's great. But if you're doing something different every single time you have a conversation with a prospect, that's not a sales process. You're just winging it. And guess what? When you try to bring someone else on board, they're never going to have, consistent, predictable results, because they don't have a process. And that's what I mean by sales process. So important. So number 4 here is identify location. And that is identify the location in the sales process of where the objection is. Because guess what? You're going to have a certain objection in your greeting, a different objection in your fact-finding questions. You might have another objection in the demo, and yet another objection in the close. So depending on where you are in your sales process, you'll hit certain types of objections. And that leads to number 5, which is identify objections versus sales process. Okay, so sometimes when you're a certain part of the sales process, you're going to hear these complaints. And again, you're just going to have to understand that's part of the sales process, and you're going to hear that same complaint every single time you do this part of the demo, or this, fact-finding question, or this greeting. Okay, and that's okay. Number 6, prepare until you can predict. I mentioned the word predict earlier. It is so vitally important to have a process that's replicatable to not only yourself, but everyone on your team, so that there's a consistency. I mean, look at McDonald's. I mean, this is a great example. When you eat a McDonald's French fry, they're going to taste the same everywhere you go in this world.
Wow.
Okay.
It tastes a little different once you step outside other countries.
Okay,
but
you're killing me.
in the U.S., it's going to taste.
See, this is the nutrition coach side of her. She knows that in Europe, they're not allowed to use certain ingredients.
Well, yeah, it tastes different in other countries.
That's great.
I know that
you
from
just completely killed my. I can't believe that. All right, so
across the country, there's
point.
Consistency.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The point of that comment was that in a franchise, they have every process documented to a T, down to the second that the fries are in the oil.
Yeah.
So that they know that you're going to have consistency from Georgia to Alabama to California, New York, not in Europe.
Well, like certain places, for example, Chick-fil-A. Love Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
You're going to have them say the
pleasure.
same thing. They're not going to say you're welcome. They're going to say my pleasure.
Yeah.
There's just certain things, and it doesn't happen overnight. And that's why it's super important to have as many things as you can in place, in writing, with procedures from the start. Because, for example, with Treat Kathy, it took a minute for him to get everyone on board with like even something as simple as saying my pleasure.
It literally took him years. Because he presented it, he's like, oh, this sounds great. We're gonna, adopt this, on all of our locations. And guess what? Years later, he went into one of his locations, and they still were saying you're welcome. He's like, whoa. He's like, no, it's my pleasure. And he corrected it, and it is, his, cool way of correcting, right? But I guess my point is, like, even the greats,
Yeah.
in Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, I mean, even the greats takes years for a new idea to be adopted, and now the standard that everyone has come to know and love as when you hear My Pleasure, you think Chick-fil-A.
Well, and that's in a company where they already have extreme procedures and things that everybody follows. Imagine more so with a small business where you're bringing on new people. If you don't have any kind of procedures or written things that tell you exactly how to do stuff, everyone's going to do it differently. And you're not going to have any kind of clear procedure. And so trying to bring that in down the line when you haven't built any foundation for that is just going to be extremely challenging. So it's so, so, so important to get just at least some basics down on paper when you start bringing people in to help.
So number 6 is prepare until you can predict. Okay. And so that's what I'm saying by that is you are literally, when you are in the greeting, hey, this is Kirk with Rescue Site. The reason for the call, and all of a sudden you get interrupted with not interested. I mean, your gut reaction is to say, oh, I'm so sorry, sir. Have a nice day. But if you can predict that 90% of your cold calls are going to, start out with a not interested after your greeting, then you can easily say, of course you're not interested, sir. In fact, you don't have enough information to be interested. Let me ask you, and then go straight into your first fact-finding question.
And that's why it's so important too.
That's predictability, right?
To role play, because that allows you to practice those kind of things. So it doesn't feel awkward. It doesn't feel forced. It truly just is very natural kind of response.
Because, and this is so important, right? Role playing is vital because I can say stuff and get away with saying certain things in my, Kirk swagger that Beth can't, and vice versa, right? Like Beth can't say a few things that I can say, and I definitely can't say some things, or I won't even dare, say a few things that she might say as, a response to an objection, because she has a different way of handling things. And guess what? As long as you know how to handle an objection, then that's all you have to do is you have that predictability of, hey, in the greeting, we are going to have, these top 3 objections. And that is exactly how I'm going to handle this, this, and this.
And that's where the procedure is important, where you have general things that everybody does the same. And there may be some things, like he was saying, between salespeople that they do differently, but they consistently do it the same themselves.
Ooh, number 7 and 8, practice till you master. That's the consistency. Okay. You want to make sure that you're consistently on a daily basis. Number 8 is work on objections every day. Every day you should be role playing with someone. Guess what? You're a single entrepreneur. Put yourself in front of a mirror and record it if you have to.
Or get on Clubhouse. There's everyone in Clubhouse. And trust me, there's lots of groups that do role play.
Clubhouse is great because people will literally listen. Like you can find a Clubhouse room that will. So for those of you who don't know what Clubhouse is, I think that's a social media platform, which is basically it's an audio version of, Facebook or whatever. So everything is
like mini
live.
Podcast rooms almost, or discussion chat rooms.
Exactly. So. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is about all I have to say about objections. That's a whole 3-day course in and of itself. We just scratched the surface. And so what I want to do is, introduce to you our special guest, Holly Jean Jackson. She is a world famous holistic business coach to health and wellness business owners, entrepreneurs, speakers, influencers, and leaders. She is the founder of Holly Jean Jackson LLC, co-founder of the Business Builder Network, and live stream show and host of the Inspiration Contagion podcast. Give it up in the chat for my person, Holly Jackson.
Hey
How's
guys.
it going?
Great. It's so good to see you guys. It's been a while since we've seen each other face to face.
It's been a while. My goodness. Was this 2019?
It was pre-COVID for sure.
Yeah. Wow.
A lot has happened.
It certainly has. So how is business going for you?
Let's see. I grew 350% last year. So
come on.
Pretty good.
Congratulations. That's awesome. I love to hear growth stories. This, people think that, something magical happens or this, no, it's, I would think you would agree is consistency. Is it not?
It is grit and
Yeah.
work and trusting the process, because there are months and weeks and years where you're like, why am I doing this? And
Yeah.
then eventually all that work and momentum just piles on. And that's the thing that's unique about entrepreneurship and business ownership is it's not this linear pretty line. It's really this, up, big down, massive up and exponential growth, and all of a sudden you find that sweet spot, and that happens all the time, but it takes a long time to get there.
You're exactly right. And one of the things that, I'm amazed with, I mean, I look at people like, Jeff Bezos. I mean, this guy didn't break even for 7 years. And like, so often people are like, man, so when are you going to give up on your dream? When are you going to like go get a real job? Right. I mean, it's like, this is a real job. This is my passion. This is my dream. What do you say to people like that?
Well, I'm honest with people. I think that leadership these days requires authenticity. And if we look 2 years ago, that was a rough year. That was the beginning of the pandemic. I moved across country to be near family and get my priorities aligned. And honestly, I had to borrow against my IRA and my savings to make things work in my business. But it was the best investment that I could make, because I was investing in myself and my dream and my purpose. And then I grew. Actually, not three, it was 450% last year. So it was well worth the investment. But that is also me being 4 years into the business, right? So there was a massive setback during the pandemic, massive loss. A lot of my clients lost everything. So the reality is that if you are surviving and starting to thrive during a pandemic, there's literally nothing you can't do in your business. So if you're struggling right now, guess what? You're around lots of people that are struggling. The people that are taking this seriously, they're pivoting, they're learning new things, they're expanding, they're continuing that path forward, and they're making progress in the right direction. They're the ones that are going to be the leaders of tomorrow.
I love that, because if you can make it happen during hard times, you can make it happen in good times, And so I absolutely love that message that you're talking about there. Holly, you wrote a book. Can you tell me a little bit about that book, Inspiration Contagion?
Yeah, I have the physical copy here. So it's interesting when you publish a book, it's kind of not really, it's really surreal until you have the physical copy. So Inspiration Contagion, I got this idea and I started with a podcast back in 2020. And I was interviewing people around inspiration. And of course, there were challenges that they discussed and setbacks, but the core message that I wanted to get across to people was spreading inspiration, spreading light and hope and healing amidst these challenges and setbacks. And so the first book in the series of Inspiration Contagion is on health. It's very personal. It has a personal accounting of all of the health setbacks I have faced, which are many. The bear story that I'm sure, Kirk, you and Beth remember very well from doing some of the work in our speaker retreats that we went to, is in there. But it's basically talking about this pattern of really big health setbacks alongside corporate layoffs. And I finally woke up and saw that pattern and decided to do life differently. So it has this campfire theme. I'm sharing really vulnerable, raw stories, but I also am sharing how I was able to learn from those challenges. And I'm giving you tools and specific steps and a trail guide for you to handle any health challenge you're facing today, so that you have those health secrets for raving success in your life and your business.
Holly, is there like one of the biggest things that you would say is, one thing that you can do that would just really spread inspiration to someone else, like whether it's a habit, whether it's a personality characteristic? Is there that one thing that kind of like stands above, head and shoulders above all the others?
That's a really good question. Right now, I have a lot of companies coming to me and individuals and clients telling me about all of the struggles they're facing regarding what's happening between their 2 ears. So the mental chatter. So I would say if you're trying to spread inspiration, send something of encouragement and something positive to someone you work with, a colleague, a coworker, someone you care about, your community members. I'm reading this book right now recently called Big Potential by Sean Acker. And it talks about how the number one indicator of success has nothing to do with us as individuals, but rather the people we surround ourselves with. So within that book, he talks about how if you want to retain employees or you want to build an amazing community, all it takes is throughout the quarter, giving that person 3 compliments, 3 acts of appreciation and how great they are. And you will actually keep them and retain them. You have like 95% higher chance of keeping them on board. It's incredible. And people are just really, really tired of isolation. They have a lot of mental health challenges. I think we're going to be facing more of an epidemic regarding mental health in the next year or two. And so I would say reach out and share some appreciation, some hope, and some light and some love to anyone around you. They need to hear that.
I love that. I know that so often, especially in the corporate world, I'm sure you've seen this, is like the boss is like, oh, I can't give too many compliments because, they got to earn it or whatever that looks like. So I really appreciate you saying, hey, look, you need to give people compliments, and not only, for your, health, your mental health, but for their mental health. And you mentioned retention too. That's incredible that like you can actually tie that to retention in employees. So I really like that. You mentioned people you surround yourself with. What would you say is kind of a criteria for the type of person that you choose to spend time with?
Yeah. So one of the first things I do when I'm working with clients is we walk through their life and business compass. And so with their life and business compass, they're putting together their top life priorities and they're clearly identifying what that means. They're also identifying their quarterly goals, like 3 goals related to their business or their career. And then they have their really large motivating factor, or what people in certain programs call their BHAG. So that really big, hairy, audacious goal that they're running after 5-10 years from now. And then they use this to make decisions. Now, I take that a step further, that this is not on that compass, but when I'm working with my clients, I have them also identify the 4 core values. And so with these 4 core values, when you have all of this together, your compass and your core values, it helps you understand who you need around you. So if you value community, of course, you want to be around other people that have similar values to community. If family is a value, you want to make sure you're around people that value that as well, or don't have the opposite values. You can have diversity of people around you, but if you have, really big needs and goals, you want to have some crossover in core values. And then in terms of your life priorities, it's really difficult to build a strong relationship with people that have completely opposing life priorities to what you're going after. Because the whole point of using that compass is to say yes to the things that are going to get you closer to those life priorities and align to those business goals, and then say no to the things that are not. So if you're hanging out with people that are complete opposite, you're going to be saying no to them all the time. So you can't really build a firm foundation of community or relationship around that. And then also, we always hear the 5 people you surround yourself, the most successful 5 people around you, indicate your success level. So the people you hang out with the most, of course, you want them to be a little more successful than you so that you can stretch yourself, so that you can see that hope, that positivity, and learn something from them. They could just be a couple steps ahead of you, but that is inspiring and it's going to help lift you up when you're in one of those valleys.
So how do you remove those who don't align with your compass? Because I know there's going to be some people that, even if it's over time, you might have started at the same place, but because of spending your 401k and investing in yourself and your business, you are now worlds apart and completely a different person than who you were. And then when you go to have another conversation with that person, it's like, dude, I don't have anything in common anymore. So how do you go about removing those who don't align with your new core values?
What's interesting is that oftentimes when we make these big changes and we step into that next level of who we are, these people remove themselves from your life. So sometimes you don't have to do anything. And I would say that while launching the book was amazing and incredible, because that kind of put me on this new plane, which I didn't really think about at the time, I lost some relationships from that launch. And because I stepped into that next level of leadership, that was me. And some of those were really difficult relationships to let go of. And ultimately, what I'm discovering as I grow more in leadership and I talk about this with my coach, is the further you climb to the top, the more lonely it becomes, because it's hard to find people that are as driven as you are. It's hard to find those 5 people that are a couple steps ahead of you. This is not to be egotistical by any means, but it kind of, you start shedding these layers of friendships. But also I would say that there are friendships in different aspects of our life. So for example, one of the new hobbies that I enjoy is rock climbing. And so I have a lot. Yeah, right. Like literally, it's so much fun climbing the wall. It's immediate, instant gratification, which is great after how long it takes to build things in business and transform our lives. But I would say that community, they don't have to have the same values and priorities. And it's really just about building community. And it's about enjoying that particular hobby. And some of those friendships are really amazing friendships beyond that. And I'm finding that for some reason, I've become very lucky. And a lot of these people are aligned to my compass, which is very interesting. So something you can do if you're feeling lonely is try new hobbies and explore different types of communities to see if you can uncover people that have similar values and life priorities in unexpected places. So for example, I'm doing some other things on my bucket list. I'm taking some workshops on Lindy Hop dancing. So who knows who I'll meet in those workshops. And I'm doing some photography meetups just for fun. I've met some incredible young entrepreneurs in those groups that I've been mentoring. So you never know, and you can expand your circle in so many different creative ways.
Okay, what kind of dancing was that?
So Lindy Hop is a form of swing dance. I took
Okay.
East Coast swing dance for, 6 years when I was in high school, and I've always wanted to learn Lindy Hop.
Wow.
So-
Okay. I got to check that out. That sounds like a fun style. I'm not sure if you knew this or not, but Beth and I actually met for the very first time at an indoor rock wall gym here in Atlanta, Georgia called Stone Summit. So rock climbing is near and dear to my heart. And so I love that you're climbing. Do you do anything outside as well, or indoors pretty much all you're doing?
I've started indoors, and this is kind of heartbreaking because I went super hard with it. I have to take 3 weeks off because I have a minor A2 pulley strain. I'm like,
Oh, no.
Womp womp.
Oh man, recovery.
Yeah, I know. Like, us over active type A's, we try everything so hard, and sometimes we need to keep it simple.
I love it. Hey, listen, ladies and gentlemen, if you are just now joining us, Holly Jackson is our special guest tonight, and she's talking about all things business holistically. So make sure you're tuning in, and do me a huge favor. Go in and hit that share button, because I guarantee someone in your network needs to hear what she has to tell us tonight. Holly, I want to go back a little bit because you mentioned having a coach. And, we think about, back in high school, or if you play college ball, it's obvious you have a coach. You have a strength coach. You have, a nutrition coach. You have all these different coaches in your, sports life, right? But in your actual life or in your business life, so many people don't invest in a coach. Can you tell me the importance about investing in a coach, and really kind of what are the criteria of the coach that you're looking for?
Oh my goodness. If you hear only one thing from tonight, get a coach. And
Yes.
It doesn't have to be me. Just find somebody that works for you. They know what they're doing. They're going to help you in your weak spots in your business. So I too struggled a little bit initially with not getting a coach, but finding the right coach. And then once I found that coach, I had to jump through that hurdle of investment. And the reality is that when you're investing in your coaching, it's more about the investment in yourself. And it's really a mindset shift. It's so important. I can't even describe this. And until you actually do that and take that step and have that belief in yourself, you do not understand that process. So having a coach accelerates everything, because even I am a coach and I can't see my blind spots. I've been doing this a long time, you guys, and I cannot see my blind spots. But I get on a call with my coach, or I work with my physical therapist, or I get on a call with my life coach, and they're like, Holly, do you not see these ugly blind spots? It's so obvious. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this? And so you need that person to share those blind spots and say, hey, how are you going to fix this? And let's brainstorm on that. But you also need that person in your corner so that when you have those really bad days, you're freaking out because you lost one of your retainer clients, or you're freaking out because something else happened in your business and you need to replace $2,500 a month in revenue. And you want to have that person to lean on and cheer you on and brainstorm and problem solve so you're not alone. Again, I'm going to mention that book that I shared earlier, Big Potential. That Sean Akers speaks about how when we are connected to other people, we can reach our fullest and biggest potential. If you try to do it alone, you will never reach your full potential. This is scientifically proven. So stop trying to have all the answers. Get somebody in your corner who knows what they're doing. The reality is, in my space, I work mostly with health and wellness business owners, and they're amazing at what they do, but they didn't go to school on business. So they don't know the right strategy, the right growth tactics. And oftentimes they back themselves into a corner because they haven't grown the business correctly, or they've started a business that's not aligned to their life. And so this is why it's so important to hire a coach and find somebody who is going to be that cheerleader, be that person that gives you the kick in the butt when you need it, sees your blind spots, and helps you problem solve. Now, the first thing I ask a coach when I'm interviewing them, when I was looking for my coach, is who's your coach? If they don't have a coach, then I don't want to work with them because that means they're not growing and learning, and they're not looking for their own blind spots, and they're stuck. And you're going to outgrow them really, really fast. The next thing is you want to find a coach that's going to help you in the biggest, weakest spots of your business, where you have your biggest problems, the thing that's keeping you up at night. So if that's marketing, find somebody who's excellent at marketing. If that's growth, find somebody who's got really great growth strategies and tactics with good case studies and great testimonials. And then the last thing is you want to make sure you have good energy with the coach. What I mean is you trust them, you like them, you are able to partner with them, because the reality is it's a partnership. It's a really very intimate relationship. And if you don't trust me, there's no point in us working together, because I need you to trust that, hey, this is what we're going to do next. And this is the right thing in the right order. But also generally, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to ask you questions. And you're going to say, this is what feels the best. And then we're going to look at, okay, strategically, what's the first step in regards to that direction? So I hope that answers your question.
I love that. And so I have a similar series of questions, but one I don't have is, who's your coach? I absolutely love that. Because, I mean, the quality of your questions determine the quality of your results. And by asking good questions, you're going to get good answers. And you'll be able to find out whether they give you an actual name or not, or kind of skirt or start kind of get squirmy. You'll know whether they have a coach or not. And like that, this answers a whole host of things in my mind that I'm kind of checking out when I'm interviewing for a coach. One of the questions that I like to ask is, I was like, hey, what's the most amount of money you've ever made in a year? Right. I asked it straight up. I'm like, hey, because if they're making less than I'm making, I don't want to get training or coaching from someone I've already surpassed, that maybe they should be getting coaches for me. Right. So that's a great, this is one of my questions. Some people might get turned off on that, but if you're going to have you talk about the energy, right? If you're going to have a true transparent conversation with this coach, you should be able to talk numbers and figures. And so that's really one of my reasons why I throw that out there is, hey, what's the most amount of money you ever made in a year? What's the biggest thing you've ever built? And then I quantify that by saying, hey, can you tell me how many employees that you had? And, the biggest impact. I like to ask about impact, because now you get to, get into the nitty gritty. So man, I absolutely love this interview. Okay. So I'm literally, it's a big potential. I have it written down, circled, everything on my notes over here. So I'm definitely going to be putting that. Is it on Audible? I mean, I love listening. So
I don't know. Honestly, that one I got from the library, because certain books, if they have like lessons that I really want to dive into, I like to read them in hand. And I love Audible too, but this is a book that you want a copy of to refer to. It's something I'm using for workshops I'm doing with companies that are struggling with isolation and other challenges for their employees.
I love that, because like you're exactly right. I do the exact same thing. So like I'll I'll run through a book a week on Audible, but I might take a month or even 2 months on a hard copy, annotating every little detail, reading and rereading stuff, because I want to truly master the content. And I love that you're doing the same thing. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, there are a few where that you have to have that physical copy and you refer back to it all the time. My other really favorite book to refer to right now that's more on the marketing side is called Winning the Story Wars.
Okay.
And I've listened to it on Audible, but having a physical copy of that is incredibly valuable because, oh my gosh, maybe listen to it the first time and then buy a copy unless you're not really into marketing. But if you're in business, you should be into marketing. And it talks about, especially for people that try to have high impact in the speaking space or on webinars or like in live stream formats or really in anything you're going to share a story around. It tells you the science behind that, the power behind that, and how the whole space for marketing is changing. It's actually kind of scary to some degree, but very, very powerful if you harness the power of storytelling.
And storytelling is, I mean, to your point, like you just said the word powerful. It really is powerful because when you tell a story well, people are in that room with you. They're experiencing what you were experiencing. If you can paint that picture well, and that all comes down to storytelling, right? And like people love, like they'll remember the experience and the feeling way more than anything else, right? So,
absolutely.
All right, so I kind of want to go back to bucket list because you mentioned bucket list. Can you tell me some of the other things on your bucket list that you definitely want to do?
So I have a lot of travel bucket list items. There's probably 20 of them, so I'm not going to list all of those.
That's fine. Travel.
Lots of travel internationally. I love traveling and having new experiences and new cultures. One of them is to backpack part of the Appalachian Trail with my stepdad. We're actually doing that this summer. We just chose a loop, so that's really exciting. I also want to bike part of the Appalachian Trail. I need to do that with an organized group, though, because it's actually not very safe to cycle. I've heard people have been hurt, so that might be next year.
Definitely do it on the southern portion and maybe the southern half.
Yeah. So I'm still organizing that, and I'm also not really in shape for climbing hills right now.
You do not have to be in shape. Okay, I'm not sure if you remember this now. So Beth and I did the Appalachian Trail, like the full thing. We flew up to Maine and just walked down to Georgia, all 2,200 miles. And I was probably 50 pounds. I think I lost 54 pounds. All right, I was not in the best shape of my life. I just like, all right, we're gonna do it. And then by the end of it, I lost the weight. And so, like, I don't let that be something that's going to hold you back. Because I mean, if you're doing it, then like you'll get in shape.
Oh, so sorry, I meant to say bike part of the Blue Ridge Parkway, not the Appalachian.
Oh, okay.
And for that
would be pretty challenging.
The climbs are intense, and I'm in really good shape, but I'm not in climbing cycle shape. That would just be brutal. It would not be fun. It would not be safe.
I was very impressed that you're going to try to bike on the Appalachian Trail. I was like, I don't think I've heard of
I got that wrong.
doing that.
It's been a long day, and I have a little bit of like allergies right now. So that's one of them. The Lindy Hop thing we talked about, getting a TED Talk is one. I'm actually talking to some TEDx organizers in North Carolina. So starting that, I had a pitch to Elmhurst College where I went to school in Chicago recently. Nice. And then, there's quite a few things. My bucket list is pretty big. I'm going after, I think, 5 or 6 things this year.
Man, okay. So Beth told me a quote. I'm trying to remember of it. Okay, so to your point of your bucket list being big, I love that. Okay, and so this is what made me think about it. Beth gave me a quote, and I might butcher it, but basically, you should be ashamed to die if you have not impacted the world in a positive manner.
Yeah, I love that.
I was like, whoa. I mean, so like I journal on a daily basis and I have like a little section for quotes. I immediately went to my journal and wrote that down. So I don't think I said that exactly right, but you get the point. It's like you should literally be going 100 miles an hour into the direction of impacting the world. And like that should be the goal, right? I mean, like shouldn't just, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's how I think. I mean, I think as big as possible. Elon Musk is like, hey, I'm going to go to Mars, right?
I mean, so here's the thing, I've done a lot of reflecting because my next book is on legacy and clarity.
Oh, when's that coming out?
I don't know. I'm going to start it this year. So it
Okay.
might be this year, probably next year, because I don't want to rush the process. This first one I did within like 8 months, and that was stressful. So I want to just have a more enjoyable launch process. Writing it didn't take that long, but the launch process was really speedy. But anyhow, when I reflect back at some of the stuff I've done, I feel like I've already done that because when I started my career, I was in nonprofit. And so I worked for this group called the Institute for Emerging Issues. And what's cool is I'm reconnecting because that's at NC State University. So I've been doing some things with my alumni association, the Entrepreneur Village. And I was actually a judge for the E-Games, their entrepreneurial games this year. And we'll see which teams win in April. And so I'm giving some in-kind gifts to that group, as well as my other mastermind group. We're giving 6 free memberships for 3 months for the top students that win those that challenge. But what's cool is I was reminded of what I did while I was working at the Institute for Emerging Issues. And I led a group of scholars across 5 or 6 different issue areas on policy for the state of North Carolina. And we collected all of the key stories for the state of North Carolina across education, infrastructure, medical, et cetera. And we put that into a policy lab in the new Centennial Library on the NC State campus. And what's cool about this and how it affects the world is, for one, we researched across the world to see if any other institute like this existed. And there's no other institute that's quite like the Institute for Emerging Issues. 2, the policy issues and stories we collected, while they're specific to North Carolina, we applied them to other aspects in the United States and how you could look at them on a global scale, and created a website and an infrastructure where people in the space can add stories and ideas and policy things, as well as they can go online anywhere in the world and add their stuff. So it was pretty cool. We got the idea from going to the Holocaust Museum and working with designers in DC across that. But I helped facilitate part of the design of that and worked with the scholars for the Institute. So the whole thing there was to give impressions to future policy leaders and help people have innovative ideas to solve across massive areas like healthcare, for example.
Wow. Wow. So much to unpack there. I definitely want to learn more about that maybe off the air. We have a couple minutes left in this interview. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining us and carving out time out of your busy schedule to be on the show. I know our viewers are definitely appreciate your time and your insights. I know you got a free offer. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so it's called the Health and Life Compass. I spoke about it earlier. It's a tool that helps you outline your life priorities. It also helps you outline your business goals for the next quarter, that big motivating factor. And as I shared earlier, you're going to use that so you say yes to the things that are on your compass and you say no to the things that are not. Because one of the biggest challenges that I see clients and potential clients running into is backing themselves into a corner and not scaling their business at the right pace, or saying yes to the things that are not aligned, which means ultimately you have to say no to the things that are. And so you lose momentum, you get burnt out, and you feel overwhelmed. But if you use the compass, you won't.
Wow. Okay. So you just hit something that hit me. Okay. So you're going to have to say yes to certain things, but you'll end up having to say no to others that you want to say yes to, right? But you can't. Man, that's powerful. Wow. Okay, so this is the Business Builder Throwdown. Is that the link?
No, I have to. Let me pull it up while we're chatting here.
Okay, that was the link that I saw. Yeah, pull it up real quick, and we'll put it. You can throw it in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to see like the comment section on your side.
Yeah, let's keep chatting while I pull it up because
I just wanted to be super awkward while you do it. Well, listen, this is if you're just now joining us, you definitely need to go back and listen to this episode, because first half we talked about objections, how to handle objections, type of objections. And we're going to dive deep into that probably next week and the weeks to follow. We got some incredible speakers coming up, so you definitely don't want to miss those. But as far as Holly Jackson, man, she brought it. Okay, like I took a whole page. Look, this is my page of notes right here. I took a whole page of notes on her. So if you did not take notes tonight, you did not come with a learning mindset. And listen, you need to come with a learning mindset whenever you come to Rescue Owners Live, because things like you can literally change the world with one little idea that could spark from a podcast just like this. So listen, if you have any questions for Holly Jackson, myself, let us know. Throw it in the chat. We're going to be able to answer that for you at this point off air. But I'm looking here at the holistic. Boom. I'm going to put that. So ignore that first link I put in the chat. Well,
the first link he was sharing with you guys, if you're looking for extra ninja tips and extra value, that the Business Builder Throwdown is a live stream show. We have 2 seasons a year. And with that, it's a free show. The Ninja specifically, that's a community we have. So that is paid, but there's a 3-week trial that you can check out. But if you go to the one without the /ninja, that's a live stream show. And we share business growth tips. And it's a fun show because Matt and I battle it out. So we choose opposing strategies. And then Scott, our facilitator or our referee, tells you who wins and what's going to be best for our entrepreneurs and people watching the show. So it's a fun way to learn about growing your business.
I absolutely love it. Holly Jackson, thank you so much for your time tonight. We look forward to getting the feedback, and we'll let you know how everyone, loved you. I mean, we're still getting comments coming into the stream here. So thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, Holly Jackson. Listen, if you have never heard of Rescue Owners Live, make sure to subscribe. We'll throw a link in the chat. We want to make sure that you have all your questions answered. My name is Kirk. This has been another episode of Rescue Owners Live, and we'll see you next Tuesday and every Tuesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Have a great week.
As a CPR instructor, you probably get asked how and where to buy equipment like defibrillators and first aid kits. Up to now, you've probably either shrugged off the question or told them to Google it. Don't miss opportunities like that. Instead, be the one to not only provide the knowledge of how to save a life, but also the resources to be ready to rescue. It's time to become a Rescue Site affiliate, and it's incredibly easy to do. Introducing the Rescue Site Affiliate Program, the only customizable platform with every FDA-approved defibrillator on the market, first aid equipment, and so much more. Now with the Rescue Site Affiliate Program, you can recommend products and earn commissions without having to purchase, warehouse, or ship products. When you become a Rescue Site affiliate today, you are automatically approved and will receive a customizable link to your store with your name on it. You earn commissions from all qualifying purchases through the traffic you drive to your new store. Whether you're just getting started as a CPR instructor, whether you have a team of instructors, or whether you're a training center with thousands of instructors across the country, this program is for you. Stop shrugging and start providing both the knowledge and the resources to save more lives. Become a Rescue Site affiliate today.